So we are here to talk about another episode of The Simpsons. This time, season 3, episode 19. It's called Colonel Homer.
So this episode is about Homer going out of his way to find a new watering hole in Spittle County because him and Marge are having a little bit of a spat. And when he gets there and he finds this bar, he meets Lurleen Lumpkin, who is a cocktail waitress that has musical talent. And Homer decides to take Lurleen on as her manager. He's going to be the manager of her country music career. And you get the Colonel Homer references, I think kind of a reference to Colonel Parker, who was Elvis's manager.
Right.
And he ends up getting the suit and all that crazy stuff.
A special suit that was made with Elvis's fabric.
Right. And, I think it's funny because if that's what they were going for, yes, this is an older episode from a lot of years ago, but I doubt most people, especially young people, know who Colonel Parker was and really even know anything about Elvis. So
right.
It was a reference to that. So that's the overall idea, and some other things happen, but we'll get into it through our discussion. So why don't we kick things off with our lines as we usually do? Give us a line.
Tonight I'd like to try something different. I wrote it when I was mopping up your blood and teeth. That was Lurleen when she first got up on the stage at the new bar that Homer is experiencing.
The Beer and Brawl, it's called.
And there's a horse tied out front to the Beer and Brawl too when he pulls in, just so you know what kind of area we're
place
in.
It is,
yeah. So.
Yep, and that's very telling of the clientele, and that leads into my first line, which was from the same scene and kind of on the same theme, and it was two of the customers at the Beer and Brawl. It's a little exchange between them, and customer 1 says, "Hey you, let's fight!" And customer 2 says, "Them's fighting words!" And they start fighting.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that. That stood out, so I threw it down.
There were quite a few conversations back and forth that would have made great lines in this episode, and that's a good one.
I like it.
It's really a good one.
All right, what about line 2 for you?
I'm going to go with, "Hold on to your pitchforks, everybody. It's time for Yahoo!"
Yahoo!
Which was a span of
Hee-Haw.
Hee-Haw, for sure. With the variety act.
Yeah, did you ever watch Hee-Haw back in the day?
Yeah.
I mean, because, back then it was like, there were 4 channels, and if that was on, you watched it, but it was completely stupid. And the parody of that here was spot on.
It was spot on. All the goofy characters. And,
Yodel and Zeke and things like that.
Right. Yodel and Zeke showed up a couple times in this episode.
And what was it? Some guy with the jug band, recovering alcoholics.
Yeah, the recovering alcoholics jug band. Yep.
Yep, that was good.
That is good.
So my second line is, Homer goes back to Springfield after he's done this, and when he was at the Beer and Brawl, he wanted a Duff, but all they had was Fudd. And so he goes to Moe's and he says, "Hey Moe, you got any Fudd?" And Moe says, "Fudd? I thought they took that off the market after all those hillbillies went blind."
Yep. And Homer was drinking a lot of it.
Yes. I like another the country western jokes at the Fudd. Sounds like a Beer and Brawl type of beer.
Right.
Me, so.
And clearly is kind of a play on words, since Duff is DUFF and this was FUDD. So
cool. Yep. So, all right, so it gets into the scenes. What you seeing?
What is my scene? Oh, I'm gonna go with the bowling scene. So Homer, is singing at work and moving his levers around, and the lights are going, and singing, and the lights are flickering, and then it segues into him bowling with Lenny and Carl, and he's singing to his ball, and and Carl says, "Oh, Homer's singing to his ball again," and Lenny kind of pokes fun of it, and then Carl says, Well, he's bowling a 280, and then Lenny starts singing to his bowl, and it's like a romantic ballad, and it just really cracked me up. So,
because Lenny, he's like, oh wait,
I
that
can
works. Oh, okay.
My score, so let me serenade my bowling ball. So that's the scene I went with.
I liked it. Yep.
What about you?
All right, so my scene is after Homer and Marge have their spat, and he storms out, and he decides he's gonna go drive and cool off. He's driving down the street, and he sees a billboard for Flaming Pete's Steakhouse, and he's like, steak, and it's like 50 miles away. So he keeps driving, and then there's another billboard, Flaming Pete's 30 miles away, and then it segues into Flaming Pete's 10 miles away, and then it fades to he's driving by, and there's Flaming Pete's, and it's burnt to the ground.
Yep.
And there's the only thing that's surviving is the sign.
Yep.
And he's like, no! So it's one of the things that leads him to the beer and brawl, because he couldn't go to get the steak, so he ends up there to get a Fudd. But the fact that he's like, steak, and it's Flaming Pete's was
crazy.
Burned out. I had to go with it. It was so silly.
Too silly.
Yep.
I know that whole scene between home and the beer and brawl is pretty amusing with his drive. So.
Yep. And then he starts going into different smelly things all
right.
the way.
He's holding his breath through the whole.
He goes by a rendering plan. He goes by a sewer district. Mm-hmm. He keeps going by
open sewer plan district. And, yep, the sulfur mines.
Yeah,
it's pretty stinky.
That whole drive to get to the beer and brawl
was
funny. Yeah.
So clearly, driving quite a bit, at least 80 miles, if not more.
Yeah.
To get to the beer and brawl, and
that's why he was out all night, because he had to drive so far to get somewhere. Yep. All right, takes us to winners and losers. How'd you like to do this one?
Go with your winner.
My winner is all the guards at the prison, because Homer gets Lurlene's song on the air, and it's a nice calming song, and everyone that hears it stops being mean and starts listening to it and calms down. Well, they're playing it over a speaker in the middle of this prison, and there's a riot going on. And then they start hearing her song, and then the prisoners stop beating up on all the guards, and they hug, and they're listening to the song. And I was like, okay, the guards, they were able to stop the riot because of Lurlene's song and stop getting into fights with all the prisoners. So they were my winners in this one.
I went with Lurlene's new manager, because after she's trying to become romantically involved with Homer, he runs away, and he had just been asked prior to that scene if this manager could buy Lurlene's contract from him, and was probably willing to pay quite a pretty penny for such a great singer. And then Homer's leaving, and he's so dumb that he just, before you offer me anything, I'm just going to tell you that I'll take anything. And so the guy was like, okay, $50. So he's going to make a mint on Lurlene Lumpkin, who we do see again later on in another episode in the future season. So. And
there was a thing in there where Homer used all their life savings to get this off the ground.
Right.
And so he lost money because he didn't even make the guy pay what he invested into
money because he is dumb.
So yeah, that guy definitely got a bargain. He is a
winner.
He is a winner. What about your loser? Who's that?
My loser is poor Mo. Because Mo is jealous that Homer went to Spittle City or Spittle County to the bar and drank some Fudd beer. So
it's like, you went to another bar?
He was so jealous and so sad. And just...
And Homer's like, I was 80 miles away. And he's like, oh, Homer. Oh,
Homer.
He was pretty hurt by that.
He was. So, Mo was my loser this episode. What about you?
All right. Mine was everyone in the movie theater when Homer was being an obnoxious jerk. Mm-hmm. So, at the beginning of the episode, one of the things that got Homer and Marge in a spat was they went to the movies, and Homer was being a complete idiot, talking, making noise,
Oh, yeah.
not being considerate to anyone else around him, and Marge got mad and told him to shut up. But everyone in the movie theater was like cheering her because they were so annoyed. And we've all been there.
Yep.
Where there's somebody in the theater that won't shut their yapper, and it's a big pet peeve of mine. And so I picked everyone in the theater.
It's really the only time in my life that I've brought up the librarian shh. Because I know it's annoying him, and then I'm like, fine.
So, I sympathized very much with the people that pay good money to see the Stockholm Affair and had to listen to Homer be an idiot and ruin the movie for
But,
him.
I mean, Homer did want to see Look Who's Oinking. And
his antics might have been okay in a movie called Look Who's Oinking.
But it was sold out.
It was
so
sold
they
out.
had to go and see the Stockholm Affair. And it wasn't his kind of movie. So, two things. I wanted to point out that the chalkboard skit in the beginning said, "I will not conduct my own fire drills," and Bart was writing that, and that was why he was in detention, and that one kind of cracked me up. I love the chalkboard skit at the beginning and the couch gag too. And then also a little bit of trivia. This is the only episode that was written solely by Matt Groening.
Wow.
So that I thought was pretty
That
cool.
is very noteworthy because he's credited with the show. And, when you think of the show, you think of Matt Groening, but this was the only one he actually solely wrote himself. Interesting.
Solely written.
All right.
So
Good
that's
stuff.
pretty fun trivia.
All right. Well, here you have it, folks. You have trivia, you have winners, losers, best scenes, lines, all that fun stuff. That's what you get when you tune in every week to Coming Up Milhouse. We appreciate that. If you want to help us out, please like the video, subscribe to our channel. We'd like to keep this going weekly, and also comments. We have a lot of things we talk about, and we'd like to hear what you think of the episodes, so please do that. All right. Anything else?
Nope. Until next time.
Jiminy Jokers!